5-Minute Advent Podcast, based off the writings of Dom Prosper Guéranger, a continuation of the history of Advent. This much is certain, that by degrees the custom of fasting so far fell into disuse during Advent, that when in 1362 Pope Urban V endeavored to prevent the total decay of the Advent penance, all he insisted upon was that all the clerics and priests of his own court should keep absence from meat during Advent, without in any way including others, either clergy or laity, in this law. St. Charles Borromeo also strove to bring back his people of Milan to the spirit, if not to the letter, of ancient times. In his fourth council, he enjoins the parish priest to exhort the faithful to go to communion on the Sundays, at least, of the seasons of Advent and Lent, and afterwards he addresses to the faithful themselves a pastoral letter, in which, after having reminded them of the dispositions wherewith they ought to spend these holy days during Advent, he strongly urges them to fast on the Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays of each week during Advent. Finally, Pope Benedict XIV, when he was Archbishop of Bologna, wrote, "Laity, the exalted idea which the Christians of former times had of the holy season of Advent, and of removing an erroneous opinion which is prevailed in those parts, namely that Advent concerned only the religious and not the laity. He shows them that such an opinion is, strictly speaking, rash and scandalous, since it cannot be denied that in the laws and usages of the universal church there exist special practices having for their end to prepare the faithful for the great feast of the birth of Jesus Christ. The Greek church in the East still continued to observe the fast of Advent, though with much less rigor than that of Lent. It consists of 40 days, beginning with November 14th, the day in which this church keeps the feast of the Apostle St. Philip. During this entire period, the people abstain from flesh meat, butter, milk, and eggs. But they are allowed, which they are not during Lent, fish, oil, and wine. Fasting in a strict sense is binding only on 7 out of the 40 days, and the whole period goes under the name of St. Philip's Lent. The Greeks justify these relaxations by this distinction that the Lent before Christmas is, so they say, an institution of the monks, whereas the Lent before Easter is of apostolic institution. But if the exterior practices of penance which formally sanctified the season of Advent have been in the Western Church so gradually relaxed as to have become now quite obsolete, except in monasteries, the general character of the liturgy during Advent of this holy time has not changed, and is by their zeal and following its spiritness that the faithful will prove their earnestness in preparing for Christmas. The liturgical form of Advent, as it now exists in the Roman Church, has gone through certain modifications. St. Gregory seems to have been the first to draw up the office for this season, which originally included 5 Sundays, as is evident from the most ancient sacramentaries of this great pope. It even appears probable, and the opinion has been adopted by many, that St. Gregory originated the ecclesiastical precept of Advent, although the custom of devoting a longer or shorter period to preparation for Christmas has been observed from time immemorial, and the abstinence and fast of this holy season first began in France. St. Gregory therefore fixed for the churches of the Latin Rite the form of the office for this Lent-like season, and sanctioned the fast which has been established, granting certain latitudes to several churches as to the manner of its observance. The sacramentary of St. Gelasius has neither Mass nor office or preparation for Christmas. The first we meet are within the Gregorian sacramentary, and as we just observed, these Masses are 5 in number. It's remarkable that these Sundays were then counted inversely. That is, the nearest to Christmas was called the first Sunday, and so on with the rest. So far back as the 9th and 10th centuries, these Sundays were reduced to 4, as we learn from many. We may therefore consider the present discipline of the observance of Advent as having lasted 1,000 years, at least as far as the Church of Rome is concerned. For some of the churches in France kept up the number of 5 Sundays as late as the 13th century. Join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-Minute Advent Podcast.